call us to order, call us to the order and then
Call you
pass it
to
on.
order. Okay, I
Yes,
will call this DRMAC meeting on February 2nd to order at 1:31 p.m. And welcome everyone to DRMAC. I am the board chair. And with the welcome, I would also urge anyone who is not a member to please become a member. Our program today, as you can see from your screen, is disability etiquette and migrant awareness. I will turn the meeting over to our executive director, Colleen Samuels.
thank you, Andrea. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our April educational offering. We have a comprehensive agenda planned for today and are pleased to have presentations scheduled from the Rocky Mountain ADA Center and Empowering Communities Globally. Your active participation throughout the entire meeting is encouraged, and we hope you'll learn some new information and ask some questions. Diana will begin the meeting by addressing some housekeeping matters.
Thank you, Colleen. Please go ahead and type your name and organization in the chat so we can keep track of who's here. If you'd like to mute or unmute, you can click the microphone icon in the bottom left corner of your Zoom window. To access the chat, you can click the speech bubble icon in the bottom middle of your Zoom window. We ask everyone to keep themselves muted during the meeting when they're not speaking, but should you need to raise your hand, you can do that by clicking on the smiley face icon in the bottom right corner. As always, you can use the chat as needed for questions or comments, and you can also use the raise your hand function to be called on. Now that we've covered that, we're going to do some staff introductions. Steph?
Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie O'Neill. I'm a program manager here at DRMAC. And I just kind of wanted to, like always, plug our travel training programs. Today, we're joined by one of the organizations that we did some trainings with recently, Empowering Communities Globally, who you will hear from later. So I'm excited to continue that partnership, and we're just working on getting some fun stuff planned for the warmer months with the travel training. So stay tuned. Yeah, Latoya.
Thanks, Steph. I'm Latoya Pranti. I'm the Operations and Development Manager here with DRMAC. I'm currently really pushing volunteers. So if you are interested in volunteering with DRMAC in any shape, form, anything, please reach out to me. My email is on the screen right now. I'll also add it into the chat. Also, I just wanted to give everybody an update that DRMAC has really been working hard to getting all the local coordinating councils up and running. We officially have 2 more up and running, so we are only needing 2 more to completely go, and we will be all the way on track where we should have been a while ago, but we're good, and I'm really excited about that. So if you're interested in joining one, please join one locally in your county. More information I'll add in the chat as well, so you can just click on that link and go ahead and find some more information about it. Diana?
Thanks, Latoya. So hello, everyone. My name is Diana Castro. I am the Bilingual Outreach Coordinator. So first, I wanted to say that DRMAC is going to do a Spanish getting their travel training class at the Hadley Denver Public Library branch on April 22nd. Please, my email is on the screen. If you'd like more information on the direct address or the link to sign up for that, reach out to me at my email. Also, we have a Extra Dose, which is a monthly newsletter that I help create. Please read that for me. If you'd like to have, if you have any updates that that you share here or that you'd like shared out, send that information and we can post that on there. If you like it, which I hope you do, share that. Have people sign up for that so that they can click on that through MailChimp or the email, or just share it out, forward the email. I would greatly appreciate that. Information is great, but if it doesn't reach people, then it doesn't serve a purpose. So I hope that that information sharing serves a purpose, because I work really hard to collect information as much as possible that I hope serves the community. April is Volunteer Appreciation Month. So, volunteers are wonderful. Everything, as a we've had wonderful volunteers. We always need volunteers, with driving, we all need drivers. So I hope that, you tell a volunteer that you meet, thank you. And I hope that we can spread the word about, how much across the state we need volunteers. Autism awareness, distracted drivers awareness, just so many great things happening across the month that I will try to share out with the extra dose. Outreach that's going out, hopefully we can, we're going to keep working on that. So that's something that we're going to keep doing with Dr. Mac, trying to reach out to all the communities that we are trying to serve. Membership, like Andrea said, hopefully if you are not a member, that you will consider us for membership. So please reach out to me if you have any questions about that. And yeah, thank you so much for coming. I believe, Holly, you're next. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Holly. I'm the program and training assistant here at Dr. Mac. This week I will be doing several trainings. Yeah, Malia.
It would help if I unmuted myself. Hi, everybody. I'm Malia Munson. I am the Operations and Development Assistant. We are really working, and I specifically have been focusing on outreach recently. We are looking for events in the community to go to and show our faces and give out all our good information. We're looking to catch up with people and get some travel trainings on the book. And also just always looking for more partnerships out there, people that we want to work with or that want to work with us, and get people going where they'd like to be.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for that, Malia. Thank you, Dr. Mac team, for all of those updates. So if you ever need to reach out to any of us and you didn't catch our emails, you can always reach out to any of us at info@drmac-co.org. One of us in our team will happily put that email in the chat box. Now we're gonna go on to our first speaker. If you attended our disability etiquette workshop last year, you may recognize our next speaker. We got so much great feedback from that workshop that we decided to bring it back again this year. Please help us welcome Maggie Sims from Rocky Mountain ADA.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having us again. I can't tell you how much it means to know we were invited back. That's always a good thing. Let me share my screen. Give me 1 second. And of course, it's not showing. Sorry, give me just 1 second. It never fails. It'll work until I need it. There we go. And there we go. And let me share the sound. Can you see that?
Yes, ma'am, we can see it.
Okay, awesome. Alrighty, let me get the sound on there. Okay, I think I've got it all down. Again, thank you so much for having us again. We always love interacting with Dr. Mac. Appreciate being here. And I do have a lot of information, so I'm going to talk kind of fast. Hopefully you'll be able to catch everything that I'm saying, but we always have to tell you that the information and technical assistance that we have are informal guidance. We're not attorneys ourselves, and so we're not giving legal information, but we are one of 10 centers across the country that provides information on the Americans with Disabilities Act. And we all share our 800 number. We also share the website. You can go and see our national network. And of course, we have a website of our own also, and I'll share that in just a little bit. But just I've got lots of information. And, one of the things we might not think about many times is that disability etiquette or awareness is another term for it. It can be a barrier. Just, our attitude, sometimes we don't even mean it, don't even realize that we might be showing some type of a negative attitude towards people with disabilities. And so we're going to discuss that, best practices, the impact of stereotypes and biases, and we're going to talk a little bit about the language that we use. And one thing that you always want to know about the ADA is that every answer to a question is it depends. It's never, almost never black and white or yes or no. And just some stats that we have. Americans with disabilities, as you can see, it's quite a large group of people. We have about 61 million individuals who identify as having a disability in the United States. And you can see some of the breakdown of that. 13.7% have serious difficulty walking or climbing stairs. 10% have serious cognition difficulties. 5.9% are deaf or have serious difficulty hearing. 4.6% are blind or have difficulty seeing. Access, it matters, and there's a lot of different reasons why it does matter. To me, the largest one is that this is the largest minority group in the country and in the world, just in general. And this is a status that any one of us can acquire at any time in our life. And it's really not a question of if, it's really more of a question of when and how. Just accidents happen, and many times just the act of aging is going to bring changes in our body and what we can and can't do. And so this identity is something we may all identify with at some point, and we want to be ready for it. And so when we look for access and making things accessible, we are really taking care of ourselves, taking care of our family, taking care of just the public, everyone. And some interesting facts, even though we have some statistics and numbers, what we have is probably lower. The numbers are probably lower than what reality is, because many individuals do not report that they have a disability, which is perfectly fine. But the point is, there's many more people with disabilities than you might even ever know or imagine. And many people they have a fear of the stereotypes, they're fearful of discrimination. And so again, there's many more out there with disabilities than we will ever know. Under the ADA, it's important to understand what the definition is, because there are different laws and they have different definitions. Under the ADA, there's actually a three-prong definition. The first and major one is that a person has a physical or a mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. And then the other two definitions, it also protects those who may have a record of such an impairment. And this can be someone who maybe had a drug addiction or had cancer, no longer has a disability from that, but they have a record of it. They are protected, same as those who may be regarded as having such an impairment. So as you can see, it's really very broad and was meant to be. And so we want to look at it from that point of view. So instead of narrowing it, we really want to widen how we see who people with disabilities are. There are different types of disabilities, obviously, and many of them are apparent or obvious versus non-apparent. Many times visible disabilities, just as it says, we can look at someone or talk with somebody, and we have an idea that there might be a disability there. Usually there's, something, they're in a wheelchair, or they may have another assistive device that they use. But there are many, many people with invisible disabilities, and obviously they're not obvious. There are many disabilities, psychiatric disabilities. These can include extreme anxiety, depression, ADHD, and then chronic illnesses such as diabetes, asthma, heart disease, and of course the list goes on. There are just more invisible disabilities than we can possibly imagine. When we talk about people with disabilities, many times we don't even realize it, but we have what's called implicit bias. Many people do. And what is implicit bias? It's an automatic, unconscious thought process and perceptions, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Many times we take these shortcuts in our mind, and we don't even know that we're doing it. And they can be good and bad, but we all have some form of implicit bias about many, many different things. And so when we say implicit bias, what are we talking about? In general, stereotypes. When we think of different things, and for our session today, talking about people with disabilities, we have stereotypes in our mind, and these are just widely held, fixed, oversimplified ideas that we have about people. They're kind of a shortcut, a cognitive path of least resistance, and our neural pathways make time-saving jumps to conclusions. So many times they reflect judgments that are really unaligned with our declared beliefs. We don't even realize that we're doing it. Just an FYI, we have a training on implicit bias, and sometimes it's just helpful to know what to look for. So if you're ever interested in that, we have a free online course on that you can take. But it's just good to know about it, good to know that it's there and realize it. Some of the generalized stereotypes that we see, that we want to really try and change those perspectives that we have. We see sometimes individuals with disabilities as being inspirational. And most individuals with disabilities, they're just doing their life, just like we all are. And so they really don't want to be held up as a something inspirational. They're a person, just like we are. And even some of the more negative things, like they're deviant, sinister, or evil. If you look at a lot of our movies, who are the bad guys? Many times it's somebody with some type of a disability. And we also looked at people as being victims. And people with disabilities, this is just a part of their life. They don't feel like a victim. Please don't call them that. I'm just a person, and on down. Some of the historical things that have happened down through the years, you may recall. In circuses, they would have exotic freaks. And these were people with disabilities who were used and watched and looked at. Many times we look at them as clowns or pitiful and sweet. All people with disabilities are sweet, and they're pitiful, and we should feel sorry for them. And of course, that's not an accurate perspective that we should have either. Or we see them as being bitter. Sometimes we think, oh, they're just a burden on society and outcast. And even some of the other things, like being non-sexual, and these are just not true. And that many people, they're just not capable of full participation in everyday life just because they have a disability. And so these are things that we really want to change. They're just not right. So when we look at disability etiquette fundamentals. I think you'll agree this is really something we all want, don't we? We want to focus on the individual, that person themselves. Sometimes we may need to have a little extra patience for whatever reason. If you're not sure about something, it's okay to ask. Don't make assumptions, because if you've met one person with a disability, you've met one person with a disability. Everyone has different personalities, different needs, different issues associated with their disability. And just treat people with the respect and the dignity that we all desire to have. We're going to watch a really neat video. Hang on.
I am not hearing any.
Are you not hearing it?
No.
Okay. That's what I was afraid. Hang on just 1 second. Sorry, guys. I may not have turned on my...
It's always technology.
I hate it.
I know.
Sorry.
It never works when you want it to. Maggie, I don't know if this is the issue, but sometimes when you go to share screen on Zoom, you just have to click that box that says share sound, and then it should.
And I think that's where I messed up, but now I'm not finding it. So I'm so sorry. Give me
No,
just
you're
a
good. I
second.
think you'll have to stop
Here
sharing
it
and then
is.
just reshare, and then it will pop
Here
up.
it is. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Of course.
Better?
Morning, Alice!
There's no need to be awkward. Poor Bob. Like so many of us, he just doesn't know how to interact with people with disabilities.
It's pretty easy, really. People with disabilities are people first.
We need the same things that every person needs, like respect.
Good morning, everyone.
Attention!
Okay. Maybe we need to be more specific.
The easiest way to show respect is to focus on the person, not the disability. It's okay. You'll get the hang of it.
One easy way to focus on the person is to watch the person signing and not their interpreter.
Or their companion.
It's really cool that you'd like to help, but do us both a favor and please ask me first. What you think might be helping?
I got you.
Wait, ah! Oh no, might actually not.
If you'd like to offer me help, let me hold on to your elbow. Don't take mine.
Hey, would you like to take my arm?
Sure.
Assistive devices help us to live our lives. They're really important and really personal.
Grabbing them only makes it weird for everyone.
What?
Please only touch our devices and service animals if we've given you permission. And don't take it personally if I ask you not to. Remember that my service animal helps me all the time. Neither of us would like it if we were separated.
Remember, we make our own decisions. We sign documents, vote, volunteer, work, and pay taxes.
We get married.
So don't address me just because I have a great smile.
Just because I'm blind.
May I help you?
Does not mean I'm deaf.
Just because I'm deaf doesn't mean I'm blind.
And just because I use a wheelchair doesn't mean that I can't sweep you off your feet.
So take a deep breath, relax. We don't bite.
Unless we're really hungry.
Hello there, ladies. How are you?
Hello. And if you're not sure what to do, just ask.
Hi, would you still like to see a menu?
No thanks, but can you please read it to me?
Sure, definitely.
Just treat us the way you would want to be treated, and we'll all be okay.
morning. Morning, Alice.
Morning.
Awkward no more. Nice job, Bob. Go forth and be human.
There's no need to be awkward.
I love that video. It's so humorous, but so true, and says kind of what we think sometimes without voicing it. When we look at individuals who have mobility and physical disabilities, you know, keep in mind that wheelchairs are considered a tool and it allows an individual to be able to be independent. And so words like wheelchair bound, confined to a wheelchair, and even the word handicapped really aren't accurate. A person in a wheelchair has freedom because of that wheelchair. And so when you're interacting, you can speak directly to the person. It may be easier to kneel or sit at a chair so that you're at face level, or step back a little bit so that you're both not craning your necks. Ask if they would like assistance. They may not need it, and that's okay. Don't touch or move their device without permission. Remember to keep the ramps and pathways clear. Sometimes we see folks putting like a trash can in the way of the accessible features, or even something pretty like flowers because they want the area to be nice. Always keep in mind, is this a barrier? And make sure that you don't do that. Note where the nearest accessible features are. So wherever you may be working, know where the accessible bathroom is, or you know, the clear path of travel, so that somebody, if somebody asks you, you'd be able to tell them. And again, emphasizing they're not wheelchair bound, they're not confined to a wheelchair. And again, handicapped has kind of gone out of use as well. People with disabilities, a person has a disability, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along.
Hi, I'm AJ. I've been in a wheelchair for 25 years because of a spinal cord injury, and here are my examples of disability etiquette gone wrong. I've been in spaces and all of a sudden somebody comes up next to me and puts an umbrella or a cane against my wheelchair because they need something to rest on. You know, I talk to people out in the community all the time and we have great conversation, but every now and then, you know, we're talking, we're having a good time, and somebody leans on me, or they'll put their foot up on my wheelchair. And I know they don't mean anything by it, but you know, if somebody comes up and puts their foot up on my chair, I just think it's if I went up to somebody and just leaned on their shoulder without asking. You know, because I'm in a wheelchair, I'm shorter, right? And I take up less space vertically. So there's more space. So sometimes people think that they can occupy that space, you know, and I feel crowded a lot, and they come in closer. And then I try to move forward or try to crouch down, and they'll occupy more of that space, and it becomes really claustrophobic. You know, sometimes when I'm in a large group and they're moving along, sometimes I just move along more slowly. Sometimes I just like, you know, my own space, so I wait till other people go first. But every now and then, someone's like, "Hey, I need to help AJ." So they'll grab on the back of my wheelchair and they'll start running after people or start pushing me because they think I need help. And I just want to be left alone, or I just want to take my own time. And I know people don't mean anything by it, and that they're not trying to be rude, they're not trying to be disrespectful. They just don't realize that this is my space. You know, this wheelchair is a tool, but when I am using this tool, I am using my wheelchair, this wheelchair is part of my personal space. Disability etiquette means respecting wheelchairs as personal space.
Great information to think about. When we interact with somebody who may be blind or low vision or have some type of a visual disability, sometimes we have these assumptions, again, that everyone who's blind uses Braille. And the truth is, the majority of folks who are blind don't use Braille. Many times people become blind later in life and at that point don't actually learn to use Braille. It's actually very hard to learn as well. So just something to know, and don't make that assumption. If you're working with somebody who needs an alternate format, it may not be Braille. It may be large print. It could be somebody to read something to them. So again, check with them with what they need if they're requesting some type of an accommodation. When you're talking to somebody who has low vision or is blind, get their attention and then speak directly to them. Always identify yourself when you enter the room and announce your departure. That can be really important. Offer to read information, or if they need a guide. And when we talk about being a guide, as we mentioned in one of the videos, you don't want to come up and grab somebody and take them somewhere. You want to offer your arm, your elbow usually, and they will take it. And that's the best way to do it. But just ask them, and that's okay. If they're asking for information, you want to give as specific directions as you can versus, oh, yeah, it's over there by the red door. You know, that's not going to be too helpful, is it? This is another time when you want to be sure you keep walkways clear of any obstruction and just ask them if they need some assistance. It's okay to do that. So I wanted to show you just some different examples of vision loss. It just is, it goes from one extreme to the other. And I find this really interesting. This is what we would call average vision, normal vision. And we see two cute little boys there playing with their balls, an orange ball and a red and white ball. And they're just cute as they can be, smiling at each other. For a person who has myopia, this may be what they see. And you can see it's more confusing. It's harder to see exactly what's going on. In this picture, somebody with glaucoma may have their vision is more in one area. So as you can see, the peripherals are very difficult to see and make out. And so they're not getting all of the same picture, are they? Someone with a cataract, again, it's much more blurred, and you can't make out quite as much as a person with normal vision. A person with diabetic retinopathy, as you can see, this is pretty significant. They have vision, but as you can tell, it's not going to be always reliable. And so each one of these individuals, if they need an alternate format or they need some other form of communication, as you can tell, it's going to be different for each one. So it's just important to know this and go by what they tell you that they need. And then this one is, this was the age-related macular degeneration. So again, very extreme. Each one of them is so different and the needs are so different. So if you're working with somebody and they've asked, you know, for guidance, the proper technique is always ask first. If they need assistance, tap the back of your hand against their hand, and then they will grasp your arm, usually directly above the elbow, and just walk at a comfortable, normal pace. Stay kind of one step ahead, except to pause and stand alongside a top or bottom of stairs and crossing streets. That lets them know that there is about to be a change. Pause when you change directions, when you step up or step down. It's helpful, maybe not always necessary, but to tell changes in the terrain, such as there's stairs coming up, this narrow space, there's an elevator ahead, there's escalators ahead. And there's more information if you want to check out the American Foundation for the Blind, being a sighted guide. So deaf and hard of hearing or auditory disabilities. When the ADA talks about effective communication, it is very specific to those who may have some type of hearing loss, or vision loss, or auditory or speech disabilities. And so, some really important things to understand is within the deaf culture, there is a culture, and many times you will see deaf, you'll see the D capitalized. And this means that these deaf individuals, they identify as being a part of a specific culture. They have a common language, shared values, beliefs, norms, and behaviors. And here's something that not everybody expects is that there is no universal sign language. So here in America, we use American Sign Language. But if you go to England, you're going to be using British Sign Language. If you go to Japan, you're going to be using Japanese Sign Language. So keep in mind that one sign can mean something completely different in another language, just like our verbal language does. So keep that in mind. And many people who have hearing aids, cochlear implants, lip reading, these are all tools and different ways that they may communicate. And so, again, each one may be different. But when you're speaking with somebody who is deaf or hard of hearing, speak directly to the person. Speak normally. Don't accentuate necessarily your what your words are, or slow down. And ask them, how do you prefer to communicate? Many times we can write something. It really depends on the length and the complexity of the conversation. Avoid, if a person is using an interpreter, sign language interpreter, avoid saying, "Oh, tell him that this is what we do on this day." You speak directly to the individual, and the interpreter is really another tool. And so you want to avoid speaking to that individual. And don't shout or dismiss. Sometimes people will say, "I didn't catch that," and we just say, "Oh, never mind," because it's easier than trying to get that information across. So try not to do that. It's really dismissive. Hearing impaired is actually a term we don't want to use anymore. A person who is deaf, they're deaf, and that's what they want to be known as. If I'm hard of hearing, that's the proper term, and not necessarily hearing impaired. Hearing loss, all of those work. So if you can try to avoid the term hearing impaired, because many deaf individuals really don't see themselves as being impaired. They just don't have hearing. So keep that in mind. And also, when you're speaking with someone, avoid chewing gum, smoking, or obscuring your mouth. I know I do that a lot, and so it can be difficult to remember to do those things sometimes.
So when I was really young, probably kindergarten or first grade, I have a much older brother, and we'd go out to recess, and there was this older guy, he might have been in like 5th or 6th grade, that always used to pick on us, and I didn't really know what to do about it, and I definitely looked up and completely trusted what my brother
Today we went to a high school and I pet
I was posing for a picture with all of my girlfriends when all of a sudden one of them reached over.
Can you read my lips?
Can you read
My lips.
Can you read?
Can you read my lips? Can you read her lips?
My dad Clementine loves bread. She stole a loaf off the counter.
Can you read his lips?
I have 2 dogs, one boxer, she's 7.5, and one mixed breed who's 8.
I am deaf, but my word. What the is a hearing one? I rely on the visual, not the auditory. The word lip reading implies reading, like reading a book
whose text is legible and clear.
But the human face isn't a book. and lip reading is reading. People mumble, people talk fast, they laugh loudly, people have facial hair like porcupines, lips like sphincters, people cover their mouths, people have accents. But real conversations don't take place in the studio.
Growing up, I used to.
I'm putting together a puzzle without all the pieces. I lock in on your mouth. I try to grasp with one sense information intended for another. There have been times when I've questioned why I even tried to lip read. The way through this swamp, when I could just use sign language. Some deaf people choose to do just that. It's like a different world. A world filled with rich expression and culture. When people sound, they come alive. But I know I want both worlds. Communication is never a given.
Tuesday, I woke up, had a rash.
She just pulled my dress down and
When I was little, my family got a cat.
Like, why don't you
who
just hit him in the
became
face?
a
That was like the last thing that I ever
guinea
would
pig.
Last winter, I learned to skate. I only cried twice.
But when the reading works, when I focus on one nurtureable face and launch into a conversation, something clicks. Right then, I feel something extraordinary. Human
Connection.
Keep in mind that lip reading is not a universal skill, and only about 30% of words can actually be read on the lips. So not everybody can lip read completely or rely on it, but it is a part many times of their communication process. And so keep that in mind when someone says, we tend to want to ask, can you lip read? And even if they lip read some, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be effective. And that's what we want to accomplish. Give me just 1 second because my none. When we talk about communication disabilities, give the person your full attention. Try not to interrupt them or finish their sentence. If you didn't understand what they said, it's okay to ask them to repeat it. And then maybe repeat back what you heard to verify that you got the right information. It may be better to move to a more quiet environment as well as something where the light is not in the background because that makes it difficult to see the person, for the person who's deaf to see what the other person is saying. If you still can't understand, then just suggest some alternative methods. And again, the individual themselves can also suggest some ideas. People who may have cognitive, psychiatric, developmental, and intellectual disabilities. This is really a wide range of conditions. And so there's no one right way, one wrong way. But when we talk about this, we're talking about those many times who may have autism, who maybe have Down syndrome, a traumatic brain injury, dementia, attention deficit disorder, other types of learning disabilities. It's a pretty wide range. When you're working with someone who maybe has one of these disabilities, be calm, be patient, listen carefully, speak directly to the person again and not to their companion. It might be helpful to use visuals when you're explaining really complex information. Speak clearly, and concisely, and try not to use metaphors. You might want to just be as basic as you can. And then you might ask summary questions where you summarize back what you think they meant. For example, what I hear is that you are saying that you will be back on Thursday. Is that correct? That makes it a little bit easier sometimes. And, rethink sometimes. I know we use all types of terminology. We use the term crazy for, I know I do sometimes. It's just a crazy day. Sometimes we just might want to think about those and find other words for them, if at all possible. If you work with people who are of short stature, there's over 200 diagnosed types of growth-related disorders that can cause dwarfism. And, they have their own kinds of stereotypes that we're all very familiar with. Things that you want to look for, they really count on being able to use the equipment, whatever that equipment might be, at their height. So there may be situations where you can control that, maybe not always. You want to get on their level as well. Having lower telephones, bank counters, urinals, and water fountains. And the proper terminology is dwarf, little person, a person of short stature, and not the word midget. This tends to be very they don't like that term. So if you can, try to use something else. Language, and again, we've spoken a little bit about that, but language is really important, and we know that it is. Our history is many times language is used to marginalize, to belittle, to oppress. And so in the disability world, some things that you want to learn and mentally make a note, something like the word invalid. You just think of what that means. Mongoloid, defective, crippled, handicapped, mental retardation. The R word, retard, is really a terrible word to use these days. Physically challenged, differently able, special needs. All of these, deaf and dumb, these are terms that have become outdated, and we really don't want to use those. So what do we use? There's kind of two thoughts when we talk about how to refer to a person with a disability. Person first language, which is something that we've been taught now for years, and it's kind of evolving. Identity first language has also become very, it's not that it's popular, but it's how people identify, and it's people who live with a disability. So this is how they would like to be known. When you describe a person first, so you say a person with autism. Many times, the way we see that is we are seeing the individual first and not the disability. And there's nothing wrong with that. And many people, that's how they prefer to be identified, is to say, I'm a person in a wheelchair. I'm a person who has cognitive issues. But some of things have changed down through the years, as we know language does, and more people are really preferring that identity first language because they really can't and don't want to separate the physical condition from who they are. Many groups, in particular, people with autism, see, I can't even say it right, they prefer to be called autistic. I'm an autistic person. Deaf is the same way. They are deaf, and that's just who they are. Low vision, blind. And so that's kind of the differences between people first versus identity first. And you don't want to, wring your hands over, oh my gosh, now I don't know what to say to anybody. You can always ask. And of course, you don't even have to refer to a disability unless it's absolutely necessary. So it's always fine to ask the person what they prefer and go on from there. and they'll be fine. Wanted to touch on the topic of service animals because it can be very confusing. There are different laws and they have different requirements than what the ADA does. And so let's look at a couple of things. A service animal definition under the ADA is very specific, and it is any dog that is individually trained to do work or perform a task for the benefit of an individual with a disability. And so that can be any disability. And as we've discussed, there is no limit to how many disabilities there may be. So any dog that has been trained to help my disability is going to be a service animal under the ADA, as long as the animal is trained and the animal is also house trained and is under my control. That means that that service animal should be allowed to go anywhere that I can go. There is one exception, in case you haven't heard this yet. Yes, miniature horses. They can also be trained as a service animal. They are stronger, they live longer. Many times people don't have allergies to a horse that they might have to a dog. They don't crave human attention, but they must still meet the exact same requirements as a service animal. So they must be under control. They must be house trained. Some of you may have known that they can be house trained. I find that fascinating. So same requirements as a service dog would be. One of the interesting things when we're talking about transportation, there are a few little nuances there. The Code of Federal Regulations, which is from the Department of Transportation, it says service animal means any guide dog, signal dog, or other animal individually trained to work or perform tasks for an individual with a disability. So in some situations, it could be something besides a dog or a service animal when we're talking about transportation facilities. Training is the key in these situations and not the type of animal. So do keep that in mind. Some etiquette rules when you're working with somebody or interacting with a service animal user: speak directly to the handler and not to the animal, as hard as that might be. Don't touch the animal without their permission, the permission of the handler, not the animal. Don't distract the animal or interfere with its work, because they are at work and it can be life and death for the handler. So we want to be careful. Don't ever offer the animal food. They're usually on a very specific diet. And something interesting, if the handler, if an animal approaches you, a service animal approaches you, many times this is the task they've been trained to perform. They are letting someone know that possibly the handler is in crisis or has an issue. And so you want to go back to the handler to check and see how things are. And don't assume they have bad lives. They have great lives. They do get to be off duty sometimes, but don't mistake that for, if one is sleeping next to its handler, they are waiting for the next command. And so they are working. And then always treat a handler with common courtesy. You'd be surprised many times that they are not. Many times people doubt that this is a real service animal. And keep in mind that it's not a specific breed or size. It can be any dog that meets these requirements. Wanted to let you know we do have some resources at the ADA Center. We have a pocket guide, which is just handy for front-facing workers. And then if you want more about the regulations, the Department of Justice has Title II and Title III regulations. Title II are state and local government entities. Title III are your private companies, but they all have responsibilities under the ADA. And then a great one is the frequently asked questions, service animals, and the ADA. These are all available online at no charge. So let me just ask, I have some questions that we can do, but I want to check and see if we have time, and if not, that's fine.
Yeah, I think we might be kind of nearing the end, just because I want to make sure that we have time for our next presenter. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. So let
thank
me
you.
thank you all. My contact information is available, and appreciate your having us here. And let me unshare my screen.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming, Maggie. I know there's been a couple of questions that I saw in the chat. So I think if you're able to, Maggie, just kind of answer those questions in the chat. We would really
Sure.
appreciate that. And then if anyone else has any other questions for Maggie, you can put those in the chat. But thank you so much for coming. I loved all of the videos. That was awesome. Thank you for
Thank
sharing this.
you.
Awesome. Well, so we're going to go ahead and move on to our next speakers. So from Empowering Communities Globally, we have Fatima Jafiri and Zavir Faizi, sorry, a dog behind me. And we'll get to hear a mix of some educational information along with some firsthand experiences of kind of what it's like to navigate the transit system as someone who's new to the area. So I'll go ahead and pass the floor off to them, and yeah, thanks.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
My name is Irina. I am here with my colleagues Fatima and Zarir. Thank you so much for having us today. Maggie, what a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you. I have learned a lot, and I would love to connect with you. Maybe we can collaborate as we work with refugee and immigrant communities that not only maybe are not aware, coming from different cultural contexts, and there is a lot of stigma. Maybe we could have do some trainings together. Awesome. Awesome. So Stephanie, are you sharing? You are. Who's sharing the screen, and how are we going to go through the slides?
Yeah, if you just want to say, oh, sorry. If you just want to say next slide when you're ready to move to the next slide, that works.
Okay, then. Well, how about the next slide then? I will just start us off, and then my colleagues will be coming in and out as well. All right, so just a little bit about demographic data. The refugee and immigrant population, according to the Office of New Americans, is the fastest growing population in Colorado. Since we tend to focus on early childhood education, well, that's one of the areas of our focus. We wanted to emphasize that 29% of children are refugee and immigrants, and they are under 5 years old. Also, there are legal differences between definitions of refugees and immigrants. We're not going to go into that in this presentation, only just a few stats on numbers. 1 in 9 Coloradans and 1 in 8 workers is an immigrant. Top countries are Mexico, India, and South Korea. The highest number of refugees last year came from Afghanistan, DRC, Myanmar, and Syria. Also, an interesting fact, over 30% of Colorado immigrants have an advanced degree. Refugees and immigrants really make significant contributions to our economy. And oftentimes, due to systemic barriers, not only in the state of Colorado, but across the country, their experiences, talents, intelligence, previous work, academic history do not get to be utilized. And they continue to face many barriers in accessing information, accessing healthcare. Another thing, just to note that Colorado is a state supervised. Is a state supervised, but counties administer most human and social services, such as food assistance and workforce services. Now, while it's critical to have state leadership, it's also important for local county and city governments to address barriers to new Americans' integration and inclusion. So I would like to highlight the City of Aurora's Office of International and Immigrant Affairs and the City and County of Denver's Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs are both really quite innovative examples how local governments have stepped up to help and welcome newcomers and connect them with different kinds of services. For example, there are wonderful models of innovation in Adams, Arapahoe, Douglas, Denver, Larimer, and Weld counties that have dedicated staff to work specifically on integration. However, as I mentioned, many gaps remain at the systemic level, especially for refugees and immigrants who are non-English and non-Spanish speaking. May I please, can we move on to the next slide? Okay, yes. So general barriers, as noted on the slide, include barriers to education, housing, employment, health, mental health as well, quality care, and we sometimes forget that many refugees and immigrants, actually most refugees, in fact, come with a lot of accumulated trauma as they come to the U.S. Fleeing persecution. So coming to the U.S., they do not have that continuum of social networks that they once had in their home countries. So many actually experience social isolation, mental health concerns, again, due to exposure to either personal or vicarious violence. And since we at ECG tend to work with refugees and immigrants who are non-English, non-Spanish speaking, one of well, many, but really one of the major barriers they face is this systemic, again, lack of representation in terms of language. So language justice is something that is really important, and we at ECG actually focus on it quite a lot. Can we please go to the next slide? Okay, so I would like to, I think my colleague Zarir is going to speak a bit about mobility challenges as he collected some data from various communities about these specific barriers. Zarir, please.
Well, thank you so much, Irina, and thank you everyone for having me today in this wonderful presentation. Also, thank you, Maggie, for that wonderful presentation. And obviously, I learned a lot. And before going through the mobility challenges that the Afghan refugees here have in Colorado, let me just introduce myself and share a little bit about the program that I'm working with the ACG. So my name is Zarir Faizi, an Afghan refugee who have been living here in Colorado for 2 years now, and I'm a fatherhood advocate with the Empowering Communities Globally ACG for the Care of Children, and previously engaged in women's empowerment and community engagement initiatives in Afghanistan, and now advocate for the fatherhood among fathers, Afghan fathers residents in Colorado. And also as a fatherhood advocate, I have learned and emphasized the importance of paternal engagement, facilitating opportunities for emotional bonding and ties between fathers and children. And beyond this, Through the program, we offer some non-clinical mental health support through social interactions, including a circle of fathers that has recently been established with a group of Afghan community, and we support some community events to foster social connections with them. And additionally, the fatherhood program allows disseminating knowledge on child development and also some social emotional skills, empowering fathers to foster healthier family dynamics. And the program's multifaceted approach not only strengthens family bonds here in Colorado, but also fosters a supportive community environment for Afghans families adjusting to their new lives in the US. So as Erina mentioned, there are some steps taken in action, and some attempts have already been done in terms of providing best transportation services at the state level and also at the organization levels. And we know that transportation is somehow the largest single source of greenhouse gas emissions in Colorado, and the state has already needs more public transit services to meet its goals of reducing emissions and increasing mobility for people who rely on transit more. We also see mobility in transit as the answer to the economic viability of our regions and somehow addressing many of the other most urgent challenges that immigrants and refugees, especially Afghans, face today. And also we see that it can be a good answer to concerns around equity, economic prosperity, and climate mitigation. And somehow investing in transit is an investment in solutions for our regions and also our immigrants and refugees' future. So part of the connections that I have with the groups, there are certain types of challenges and concerns that the Afghan refugees and immigrants brought to my attention, and one of them was the affordability. Although it has been visible that RTD offers remarkable discounts and opportunity for people to save money at a time, but also cost of living is a top concern for Colorado Afghan refugees, but they mention. Like as an example, if we see in a household of 4 to 6 people, the head of the family works only to pay their monthly bills, including housing, food, health, gas, and insurance. Even some newcomers cannot afford to pay $114 bus passes monthly. And this can be a big burden on their shoulders and handle it financially. The second concern that they have with the transportation services here is all about the language and cultural barriers. And it limits their access to information, including transportation schedules and maps. And you know that language barriers and illiteracy often prevent immigrants and refugees from obtaining even a driver license. And I have seen some of those examples before. And taking public transportation is also difficult. Like if you do not understand announcements, cannot read the signs, and do not have or you not know how to pay for fares, this way transportation proves to be an exceptionally difficult situation for many immigrants, as they are not able in some cases to seek better paying jobs in other locations and resort to lesser paying jobs near their homes as well. And the other thing is cultural barriers somehow affect how groups interact with one another, and immigrants and native residents may perceive even good intentions negatively alike, causing tensions for all who are involved. And also I have seen that for many immigrants coming to the United States, cultural norms can be very difficult to overcome, making integration into their new society, which is really difficult and lengthy, and it takes time for them to adjust themselves linguistically and culturally. Another main area that they have the concern is all about the digital literacy barriers that limit your access to use of technology, about those applications and maps, which is really a headache for many newcomers. They're technology blind, and it's not easy for them to navigate the bus routes through their phone maps applications, just starting their routes from point A to B. And accordingly, they need some buses routing orientation even first, and later on they can just use the services that are provided by RTD. And again, lack of knowledge about the RTD services and routes available. I'm sure that RTD provides various tools and informational pages to help riders get around in their system, but Afghan refugees as first-time riders do not know the routes by browsing the detailed how to ride somewhere. As an example, some of the bike riders, they are riding bikes, they do not know how to visit Bike and Ride to learn the rules and for taking bikes in RTD. We also know that the mobile applications offered by RTD and the other third-party developers are really great and priceless for riders who want to access the schedule information on the go, but they have problems navigating and spending time looking around at the rest of the tools offered due to language barriers and technology issues, unfortunately. And the other thing which is really important is like the perception of uncertainty and long bus waiting times, like due to traffic delays and inadequate information. We also realize, and I have been in contact with so many groups, they think that the bus delays are understandable, but if they could just have a consistent or somehow reliable or accurate way to tell you when the bus or train will arrive. Like for so many refugees, they have told me like taking the bus would be a time-consuming process. Like they cannot reach their destinations on time due to so many stops the buses take during an individual demanded route. Like recent experiences from the refugees on the effects of providing real-time transit arrival information at the stations and the stops have not been consistent, unfortunately, across the cities here in Colorado. And therefore, it erodes the refugees' interest in taking the public transportation and use it. And the last thing that, unfortunately, this was mostly focused with the conversation with the women group was like the gender-related barriers. Like women with children, they tend to walk and they're least likely to use a public transportation due to cultural barriers to mobility and somehow safety concerns, like lack of self-transport perception due to cultural differences and gender-related barriers could translate like girls missing schools, women not looking for job far away from home, and somehow giving up their jobs or being unable to access health or childcare services. And the negative impact of the lack of the adequate transportation is like the more significant in countries like Afghanistan with big gender gaps in different issues and practices in their home countries, unfortunately. And now they have the same mentality of being harassed or maybe judged because of their clothing, ways of communication, language barriers, and cultural differences. So they do not ride the buses and even mostly tend to walk. And so these are all the challenges that unfortunately we have right now, part of the conversation that I had with my groups during the trainings that we do on a weekly basis. So thank you.
Thank you, Zarir. So who are we? just a just a little bit of our background. Empowering Communities Globally, or ECG, was founded back in 2008 as a grassroots, all volunteer organization providing services in 7 countries around the world. With the primary mission to reduce the impact of poverty in areas most affected by natural and man-made disasters like war and conflict. Now, all projects, programs in the countries we serve, as well as here in Colorado, are completely community-driven and community-led. And they're based on the ECG's 5-step model, which is actually a participatory action research approach focused model that enables community members to determine their own needs and co-design solution implementation model, as well as the evaluation of said of activities they have implemented. In Colorado, as it's obvious already, we work with the most underserved BIPOC community members, specifically refugees and immigrants, who tend to be non-English and non-Spanish speaking. And we provide pathways to quality training, education, professional certificates, employment opportunities in the field of early childhood education. We support refugee and immigrant communities to gain access to meaningful employment and decent wages. We also have focused on health programming. Yeah, all support is quite holistic, and we do emphasize, as mentioned already, language justice. All of our activities have interpretation in community members' heart languages. Can we please go to the next slide? Ah, well, Zarir, there you go again.
Yes,
I know
so,
you have already touched a bit on the advocacy program.
right. And then currently we are with different groups of the Afghan community, part of the fatherhood advocacy program. And this program, as I already mentioned, it seeks to increase like the positive shared emotional interactions between the fathers and children. And currently we have two projects with the fathers. One is from Afghanistan and the other is from the Myanmar and Burmese. And through this fatherhood advocacy program, we focus on two main core elements, which is the nurturing training, nurturing fathers training modules, and at the same time, home visiting programs. And at the same time, we have some other optional trainings that I want to mention a little bit about our nurturing fathers training module. So these nurturing fathers training modules is a 3-hour classes with fathers that have provided like open dialects, supporting the training content fidelities for effective fathering skills, healthy family relationship, and child development. On the fatherhood weekly classes that we have with the fathers, the facilitator delivers important information on self-nurturing principles, self-care activities, concepts like on power over and power to, and the influences and control parenting tools for healthier parenting connections. Meanwhile, supporting those 5 protective factors that Irina mentioned, like including parental resilience, social connections, concrete support in times of need, knowledge of parenting and child development, and finally, social and emotional competence of children. And at the same time, we have some optional training like financial health and also moderate father training. And those optional trainings are facilitated for 2 hours with couples from the Afghan community. And the participating parents, no matter what their reading level is, they read aloud like more actively and frequently and promote home reading behaviors as a way to result in improving children's school success. Like by taking these 6 sessions, the parents will not only be enjoying reading together, but also will be a way to talk about the issues and the stories in their lives that result in better communication, reasoning abilities, critical thinking, and decision-making skills. And also somehow the children's literature that parents learn to share is chosen for its expression of social emotional themes, cultural diversity, and beautiful illustrations. And also by the end of these trainings, the parents report that children exhibit more interest in rhymes, interaction with dogs, and awareness of wars in the environment. And at the same time, we have some peer-to-peer event where we want to decrease the social isolation in the community and somehow invite those parents in the community with your kids, going to the zoo, hiking, and doing some potluck activities, at the same time doing some summer camp events, possibly during this year. So these are all the services that we do part of the fatherhood advocacy program. Can you move into the next slide, please? Yeah, and Fatima, you want to share something about this one, right?
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Fatima. I'm working in home visiting field. And today I'm so excited to talk about the awesome work in our ECG home visitors do. And instead of just throwing numbers at for you, I want to show to how really we working, make a difference difference in our community. At ECG, we are not just home visitors or visitors. We are helps in our community. We give people information about children's health and growth. And we are there for support whenever they need it. We don't just talk, we build trust and make people feel safe. And we are also and big understanding people's problems. We use the smart ways to help them deal with the stuff they have been taught. And now I'm going to talk about since in 2021 we have trained 22 home visitors who help over around 20 families in 9 different languages, and that's 20 families who have gotten support they might not have had otherwise. And but we are not stopping. We are always trying to get better at our I hear that sound. I thought maybe close. Sorry. We are always trying to get better at what we do. We are training caregivers to be even better helpers, and we are working to make sure everyone gets the help that they need, no matter what language they speak or what problems they face. In short, we are not just doing a job. We are doing something really important in our community that are stronger and happier to make this community happier. So this was about the home visiting. If you can go to the next slide. Yes, this is the ECG LFS Pomojo ECE workforce program that the ECG make Pomojo, and Lutran Family Services is partnership with the ECG. I'm so excited to share something close to my heart about our program as supporting women in their early childhood education field. In my personal experience, because I was navigator before in Pomojo, right now I'm working in home visiting. As a navigator, I just helping. My role was helping a student with education and career. So I just helping them to register to the college or helping with the interpreter in the class sometimes, and applying financial aid for them. Whenever it was guiding them through the college registration, or providing homework help, or even as I told you, interpreting in the class. I have seen how language barriers can hold people back. Many individual deposit holding bachelor or master degrees, peoples who's staying at home because they're not talking really good, or they just the English, the language barriers. So they're staying home, they're not working. So when we start this program, many people join to us, and right now we have maybe around 200 students who are getting the certificate as a director or AA student. So they just finding the job and getting confidence to work outside the home. And from helping them attend the right qualification and facilitating career progressive, we are there every step of with them. And what that's amazing. And by doing this, we are not just helping them advance their careers, we are also increasing their earning potential. Our program is built on the foundation of like celebration, cultural diversity, and ensuring everyone receiving the support as they need. We offer like English class for them, homework, as I just said, that homework class, and upskill training for them, and also finding job for them. Almost we almost like have maybe more than 200 students in waiting in our waiting list. So they're willing to join to our program just because we have this problem. But one of the things that is really hard for these people is transportation. Because some of them maybe they cannot drive or they have children at home, so it's hard to like come into the college or university. So one of the barriers is transportation. So and if you can go to the next slide. Family, friends, neighbor. This slide we are talking about helping family, friends, and neighbor. FFN provides overcome challenges. First, I want to introduce the FFN. As you know, FFN is coming like during the COVID-19. Many people are staying home and they have faces with them. Like maybe income, they cannot put their children in the center or somewhere. So FFN is coming and they just put their children with the family or friends or neighbor to watch their children. So now we are just in ECG, we provide the speak Arabic and Dari face difference in finding information and resource for their caregiver work. We are here to change that. We work closely with 22 FFN providers, parents, and other in each language, our community together. So we figure out what goals they have, what they need, and what we can help them. We want to make sure everyone's voice is here. But we're not stopping here or there. We also help FFN providers get involved in councils, state council. So this way they can have a say decision that affect them and their in our communities. So in short, we are just here to support FFN providers and make sure they have everything they need to be succeed. So yeah, and you know this FFN is work in our all of our programs related together. Some of the people who are going to the college, sometimes they put their children with their friends. So this is FFN, and they can watch their children and they can go to the college. And thank you for listening. If you go to the next slide, thank you.
Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, Zarir. I'm very mindful of our time here. This is the last slide, so I am just going to say, actually, I'm going to reiterate our commitment to equity. We support our community members and building, advancing their personal agency. We work with children, families, communities. We also want to support partners, different stakeholders in the field, and certainly work on policy, changing the policy to make it more inclusive to all community members in the state of Colorado. Thank you all. I don't know. I know it's 3 o'clock. There's probably no time for Q&A, but Stephanie, please.
Yeah, thank you so thank you so much. Yeah, I know we're just about at 3. We have if anyone has like a question. I don't know. I haven't looked in the chat. I don't know if there's anything in the chat, but I think, let's see.
If anyone would like to stay and the presenters would like to stay on to ask questions, we can do that. But I know we're right at time. So if you guys are okay with staying a little bit, if we have questions, we could do that as well.
Does anyone have questions? I don't see any in the chat, but if anyone has,
I don't either.
Yeah, I don't see any questions in the chat either.
Awesome. Well, if anyone does end up having any questions, feel free to reach out to one of us, and we can pass it along, or you can reach out to ECG directly. But yeah, I think that just about brings us to the end.
Thank you for
Bye,
the
everyone.
opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Nice
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.